Breaking news coming in. Foreign Minister Jaishankar schools UK Foreign Secretary who brought up BBC tax survey. Sources tell India Today that UK Foreign Secretary James cleverly brought up the BBC tax issue with External Affairs Minister Jaishankar today. He was firmly told that all the entities operating in India must comply fully with the relevant laws and regulations. This, of course, comes on the back of the raids that you saw at the BBC office. We were getting you that story about the income tax raids at the BBC office following the documentary that they released on Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well. But EAM has said that BBC must fully comply with Indian laws. If Gaurav Sawant is live with us, let's go straight across to Gaurav Sawant. Do we have it?
BBC is an independent organisation. It's separate from government, and I have found that I still enjoy a very, very strong professional relationship with Dr. Jaishankar. I'm enjoying a fantastic hospitality here in Delhi. So I think the relationship between the UK and India is as strong as ever. It's growing stronger by the day. And I'm very much looking, whilst I'm here in Delhi, to build on what is already a good bilateral relationship.
So there you go, Foreign Minister Jaishankar going on to tell UK Foreign Secretary, according to sources, that all the entities that are operating in India must comply fully with relevant laws and regulations of the law of the land here in India. This, of course, comes in after there were tax raids on the BBC office because the UK Foreign Minister did raise the issue of BBC tax searches with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, and last month itself we had broken the story about how the Income Tax Department had conducted searches at the BBC office. It happened in New Delhi, it happened in Mumbai as well, all of that following the documentary that was released on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This was the search of the income tax that came after BBC released the documentary made on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Gaurav Sawant now joining us live from the newsroom. Gaurav, first up, if we could understand what were the findings in terms of the BBC raid. Secondly, yes, any organisation for that matter must cooperate with the Indian authorities and comply with the law of the land as well. Jaishankar has made that stance clear. But the larger question is what was found, on the back of which the Foreign Minister of England had to, of UK rather, had to bring this up with our Foreign Minister.
So as far as the BBC raids or searches were concerned, there are several irregularities that the government claims to be investigating in tax compliance. And when James cleverly, the UK Foreign Secretary, raised some of these searches that were carried out at the BBC premises, which it's argued by several intellectuals and others in India, came on the back of the BBC documentary on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Then it was argued that free press must be permitted. It's very necessary. To which External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, according to sources, is learned to have said that any foreign entity working in India must comply with rules and tax rules and norms in India. That is strictly necessary. Now it remains to be seen of those searches that have been carried out, certain clarifications that have sought, where BBC has also maintained that they've asked all their staff to comply with all Indian tax norms. What ultimately emerges from those searches?
Absolutely. So what ultimately emerges is a wait and watch right now. But for the moment, this was brought up. Does this diplomatically affect relationship between the two countries, Gaurav?
Very unlikely this would impact relationship between India and the United Kingdom. Again, just keep one thing in mind. India is now the 5th largest economy in the world and fast moving, towards being the 3rd largest economy. That is what the government's aim is. That's point one. Point two, even in G20, government's been making this point very clearly. There is no way that the West will talk down to India or force their thinking on the global South, as some argue. And the issues that are being raised by the global South or by developing nations, they need to get as much say in the international order, and especially in this emerging international business order, economic order. That is something that India has been advocating very, very strongly, something that Foreign Secretary also referred to today. So, while on one side, whether it's Europe or the United States of America, there is a lot of pressure to talk about what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, and 1 year after that conflict, absolutely. But is that the only issue that's facing the world? Or are the sustainable goals that are being talked about, energy security, food security, these are issues that are as important, if not more, that also need to be factored in equal measure. So this is the point that emerging nations and developing nations are making, but that again seems to be a huge controversy in the days ahead, with the focus of the West remaining the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Absolutely. Gaurav, thanks for that.